What's going on, FastTurnRadio watchers, listeners, replay catchers? Bobby Miller, what's up? That's right. Gompers gets pushed aside for Bobby, who I forgot to give the fist bump to last week. So I'm sorry, Bobby. She actually tagged me in a post all talking about, you promised you'd give me a fist bump. So there it is, Bobby. And everybody out there listening, I appreciate you guys being here. We have Anna Hill as our special guest, CPA extraordinaire, FBA seller, kind of both sides of the world, which is, just, I don't know. It's something that we look for, somebody who understands the CPA world. We're all FBA sellers. To be able to rely on someone who has been on both sides of the issues, understands what an FBA seller needs and what they need to do from a CPA standpoint and all that insight is just invaluable. The back and forth between you and Jeff at the Orlando conference, that was awesome. You at the front of the room, he was at the back of the room, and it was like
CPAs everywhere.
Yeah, it was just crazy. Stephen Peterson wasn't there, was he?
I don't think so. I want to meet him.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Good conversation with him, and he's kind of the same way as you are. The fact that he's like, I'm a CPA, but not going to give out too many opinions. Just it's totally understandable. But you are a bookkeeping expert from
yes.
And Karen told me, I can't say KIB. We all know.
Yes,
KIB.
it's better just to say KIB.
Yeah. She said that you are a QuickBooks expert, which I've had a ton of QuickBooks questions, and I'm horrible with QuickBooks, so I can't answer any of those. So hopefully you can cover some of that with us, for us. So we're going to get into all that. So you guys get your questions ready. But first we are going to cover the road to 500K because we did not do it last week, I don't think, or maybe the week before. I don't know. I missed it at some point. Anyway, and I'm excited about it because I'm going to be honest with you. Our numbers are freaking rocking right now, at least by our standards. So I am excited about sharing the road to 500K. So I'm going to get started with that. And if you can just hang tight for a second, Anna, we will be right back to you.
Awesome.
All right. So the first thing I need to do is actually bring up my Seller Central account. Otherwise, you can't really see the numbers. I just realized I don't actually have that up. So, all right. Oh, dude, they're getting better by the minute. Good stuff. All right. I'm excited. All right. We are going to share screen. Where's that at? Here we go. All right. Can you guys see my screen? Anna, you're actually on here. You can tell me without having 1,000 people. Can you see the screen?
No pressure. I can see the screen.
All right. Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay. I am excited, guys. First of all, let me point this out because it almost never happens. Yes, I have an item I am merchant fulfilling, and it's sold. So, yeah. Woo! I hate to ship stuff, but, when the money is worth it, then you just do what you got to do. 7-day is at 12,000, which that is extraordinary for us. That is a huge 7-day. 15-day is at almost 21, and 30-day just crossed 38,000. So very excited about where things are going and how they're all coming together. It's the back to school season, as you all know. And we're really not even in the peak of the season, which is amazing because the stuff is absolutely flying. And that's what a majority of this is. Of course, I have my standard replens and wholesale items that we sell, every day, every week, every month. It's just that core of products that makes up our business. But then the seasonal selling kind of adds to the standard. So you take maybe what's a $10,000 core and it becomes $20,000, or a $20,000 core becomes $30,000. At back to school, because there is so much opportunity and because I did a ton of study and have a lot of data from last year, I was able to jump in full force this year, and it has really paid off. That's what the majority of our sales boost is from, is all back to school stuff. And Forrest 000 wants to know, what is the unshipped MF order? I am not showing you my products, but thank you for asking. That's very kind of you. Yeah, not happening. So let's get into the actual reports. And business reports, I almost clicked on fulfillment. That would have showed you more than I wanted to, I think. All right, business reports. So this is how our days have been looking, which is freaking amazing. We are over 2,100 already for the day. We finished yesterday at 2,700, finished the day before that at 2,900. So we are rocking the $2,500 days. I have no doubt that we'll hit it again today. And that's exciting. How long we can keep this up kind of depends on how long I can keep sending in viable products. And we got a pretty good stash. So I think we're going to run this way. I expect to run close to 2,000 for the rest of the month. So that's my projection. It's just a matter of whether or not I do the work that needs to be done. All the wholesale is in place. So I am now supplementing with RA, and I'm loving it. Back to school RA is awesome. We just had a killer store that just opened up. They had their grand opening today, and I hit them for about $1,800 after discounts and tax exempt. And they knew I was a reseller. They loved the fact that I was a reseller. Said at first they said no limits on anything, and then after I went to get my third cart of stuff in about half an hour, they said, "Okay, we appreciate what you're doing, and we know what you're doing, and that's cool. But if you could leave a little bit of stuff for the customers, that would be awesome." So yeah, they didn't really put hard limits on me, but they said, yeah, maybe if you don't take all of it and you just take most of it, that would be good. So we kind of compromised, and there were a couple of things that I pointed out, and I said, well, can I have all of these? And they're like, oh yeah, you can have all of those. So I said, okay, sweet. I thought maybe I could, because it was big and heavy and taking up lots of cap space. And I said, you guys don't really want that, do you? And they said, no, we really don't. I'm your guy. So really enjoyed today. Just getting out there shopping. I am going with John Grollo tomorrow and Gary Nolan. I'm going down to Jacksonville to source with them. And so always good to see John, and I'm going to meet Gary for the first time, even though I know him through Facebook. So that's the formula that we've used. We geared up in July for the back to school and got the majority of the wholesale orders in place, and that's what's selling on one side, and then busting my butt and doing RA on the other side. I actually put down a deposit on a trailer today, so going to get a 6x12 trailer and get that all hooked up next week. The reason I put down a deposit is because the first thing I have to do is have like the trailer hitch installed and everything, because I don't have any of that. So that'll be done early next week, and I'll have a trailer and be ready to rock and roll. And I'm just going to be doing RA quite a bit from here right on through the end of the year. You know, Q4, it's absolutely killer. So, and that is quickly approaching. So, all right, back to the numbers. So good day. Like I said, the month to date is that's solid at 18, almost 19,000, and we're at the 12th of the month. So that's running roughly $1,500 day averages right now. $1,500 average will take us right up to a 45, almost $50,000 month, and that is like my high goal would be 50,000. So that is, I think, extremely doable at this point. So I'm excited at how that's looking. You see last month, which was decent, being July, 31,000, we are absolutely going to crush that. That 31,000 is done. It's just a matter of time. There's stuff that we're selling, 10 units a day of every day that are all back to school specific, and we're nowhere near the peak. So I expect those to be more like 20 a day when we get towards the peak. And there are some products that nobody else can get right now. So as competition drops out, they will not be coming back in as we climb towards that peak. That is a nice position to be sitting in. So, if you can make buyouts and kind of work with other people, that's where the networking. So I talked about 3 things that helped us get here in a post, which is planning ahead, networking, and then putting in the effort, and that's all it is. So we did the planning with the wholesale. We did the networking where I talked with other sellers. We did kind of big takedown buys, also just shared finds. Why be in the store and I'm going to find this great thing that I can only get 10 of, and I'm not going to tell anybody? No, man, this stuff's selling the day it gets there. You go buy 10 of them too, and you go buy 10, and you go buy 10. and those people give that stuff back to you. That networking is invaluable. And then the last part is just the effort. Yeah, you got to get off your butt and you got to go fill up the van. You got to go do the work, ship the packages. I got Teresa doing a lot more shipping for me, which is taking the load off so that I can do more of the shopping. And I'm excited. I'm telling you, the next 4 months are going to freaking rock. So if I screw up Halloween, may not be quite as good as back to school. It's kind of my first go around with Halloween. I didn't really do anything for it last year, but I did track a lot of data. I have a good feeling for what I want to do. But anyway, that's where we stand with the month to date. Let's look at the year to date. Or no, not that way, custom. Oh, look at that. We're right on the cusp of 195,000. So hopefully by this time next week, we will be over the 200,000 mark for the year. Last year, you see the same date range. So basically last year to date at this point, it was 75,000. So we are just blowing the doors off of that, which I am excited about. And just to show you last year as a whole, we did 215. Okay, and that was with what I consider to be an amazing fourth quarter, and really December specifically, where we did 69,000 in December. You know, we're almost to that, and we're not in fourth quarter yet. So everything is coming together. I think this road to 500K is actually going to get there. You know, I was a little worried for a while. I got to tell you, I was nervous, but the way this back to school is kicking up and projections that I'm looking at, it's going to be solid. So does anybody have any questions? Chat room's kind of quiet tonight. Probably just waiting on you, Anna.
No. Well, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
I know there's a lot bigger fish out there, but thank you.
That's not what it's about.
Yeah, and you know, and I try to tell people that too, that you know, while you see people out there doing $100,000 months or even more than that, you know, and the Sam Cohens who are on the extreme where he's doing 300,000 or 400,000 between two accounts, which is all awesome. But keep it in perspective for yourself. You know, I'm comparing our numbers to last year, and that excites me. That's where I'm focusing, because that's us. You know, that's us year over year. I see that improvement and I see that growth, and I'm going to talk with you about some of the growth in our inventory, because that's another thing that I kind of looked at that really blew me away. We've really grown our inventory, which has led to the better sales. So let's see, with a limited budget, is toys the best fourth quarter play? Yes, absolutely, 100%. You betcha. Toys the rest of the year, hit or miss. Fourth quarter, yeah, make sure you get the right ones. You don't just go buy up the hot toy list, but yeah, if you do your homework and you pay attention, do some scanning. I love RA fourth quarter in the stores. I mean, that's where I killed it last year. I didn't have any hardly wholesale toys or anything. All my toys were RA buys. And when you say a limited budget, what are we talking about? $1,000, $10,000, somewhere in between? I mean, you don't have to give an exact number, but give me some idea of 1K. Okay. If you're doing 1,000, yeah, just stick to in-store. Don't try to get into wholesale. Don't try to guess what's going to be popular. I would honestly just, you know, try to grow that money between now and fourth quarter. But once Black Friday hits, that's when you're going to know. And I'm not saying wait until Black Friday before you start buying anything, but before you start buying those hot toys, wait until Black Friday. Wait. That is my advice to you. Do not speculate on what's going to be hot. After Black Friday, you'll see what's sold out in most places. You'll start to find that rare stuff, and you just got to hit a lot of stores and find a couple of them here and a couple of them there, and you're going to go through $1,000 in a heartbeat. In the heart of fourth quarter or December last year, I had a $12,000 disbursement, which for me was huge. I was like, okay, I got to spend this 12 grand this week so I can get it in, get it all sold, and turn it again next week. And I blew through that 12 grand in like 3 days. So
wow.
Trust me, you know, yeah, if somebody's got $1,000, you will not have a hard time finding great stuff. Robert, great question. Says, how long will you source back to school RA, end of the month, beyond? No, definitely not beyond. I am actually going to wrap it up this week. I may go into early next week. but I don't want to go much further than that, because what I'm looking at is basically about a week lead time. So even if I buy it today and I send it in, it's going to take 2 days to get to the warehouse, possibly another day or two to go live. If you have a weekend in there, along the way. Now, if you send it on Monday, you're going to be live by Friday. That's cool. But if you have a weekend, that's going to add 2 days to kind of all that mixing around. Suddenly, you're going to be at a week from the time you bought it until it's live. Right now, with it being August 12th, if you sourced a week from now, you're looking at August 19th. If you send it in on that day and it's a week later, that's August 26th. That's pretty much the peak. The last week of August, September. I said earlier in the year, as we started talking about this stuff, that it was the third and fourth week of August. I was wrong. When I went back and actually studied my data from last year, it was the end of August and the first week of September where I really saw the huge sales spike. So I would not go past next week, really. So this week, you're definitely safe. Next week, you're really starting to push it. So that's my advice on that. What about the FBA delay to go live? Inventory seems to move around for up to 2 weeks. I haven't seen 2 weeks. I'll give you a week. Now, if you're shipping from California to the East Coast, you might get caught that long, but I'm in Georgia. Most of my stuff goes to Kentucky if I ship in large quantities, Tennessee and Virginia if I don't. Those are live, or those arrive within 2 days, and then they're live within another couple of days after that. So I see about a 4-day lead. Again, if the weekend gets mixed up in there, suddenly it becomes a 6-day lead time. So, all right. Anything else on the numbers? Any questions? I know I want to kind of wrap this up and give Anna plenty of time, but we're excited. Everything's looking good. All right. Taking off the screen share. I don't see any questions. And then we get Anna's beautiful face.
Hi.
All right. So that is the road to 500K. And now the lovely Anna Hill.
Hello.
Tell us about Accounting We Will Go. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then tell us what we're supposed to do as FBA sellers to run our business.
Well, I'll start with the easy part, talking about myself.
Okay.
Let's see. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, and I have a husband, a son, and 2 dogs. And it's wonderful. Our son started high school Monday. He's 15, which is a little scary. Yeah, a little scary, but he's not driving yet. We're going to put that off as long as possible. So, then we have a boxer and a pit bull mix there. I just love them so much. I'd have a million dogs, but my husband stops me, which is probably good. And let's see. So I've been a CPA since I graduated from University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and practiced for a long time, and then decided to work part-time so I could be a mom and a CPA, and I sort of fell into selling, and I love it. I love it. It's so much fun. It's nice because I can do things like go to a meeting at the school or just bury myself in a long weekend of really cool sales and shop and source and research. And it's just a wonderful opportunity that we all have in this field. And I feel really lucky to have found it. So
yeah, the freedom is by far the best part of this. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care what the sales are, any of that. The fact that on any given day you can go, yeah, I can be at the school. Oh, Garrett forgot his backpack. I'll bring it to him. It's that freedom. So yeah, I agree with you totally.
It is. This spring, my husband Michael and I took off for 2 weeks to Amsterdam, and I didn't have to ask a boss. I had to ask me because I'm a boss to myself. But it's just nice. If you plan for it, you have this wonderful flexibility. So along those lines, once I got into this community, I realized I started getting a lot of PMs when people found out I had an accounting background. And I started getting the same questions over and over again. And I didn't mind answering them, but I thought, why don't I start a group and I'll make it free. And that'll be my way to give back to this community that's been so helpful to me. And all the questions and answers can happen there. And it wasn't saving me time. It was more like a repository for people to go to. And, so many messages start off with, I'm sorry to bother you, but you probably get one. I know you're busy, and I really didn't mind, but I thought, gosh, let's just make it public knowledge for everyone to share. And there's so many people in this community that know more and different things than I do. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, that's the one that gets me is I know you're busy, but
yeah,
I kind of am. But,
yeah.
at the same time, you do want to help people. And groups, as much as, Chris and I have joked about it, and everybody kind of does because there's like a million groups out there.
Yeah.
Yours serves a purpose. My group serves no purpose. See,
What?
my group, no, seriously, my group is a place for me to post my link to my show. That is all it was ever meant to be. Your group actually serves a purpose and fills a void that was definitely out there, which is the accounting.
Yeah.
We're not bookkeepers. I have an electronics background. I'm a math person. I'm a numbers person, but it was never, I never went to school. I was, did a couple years of college, but no degree. I consider myself a smart guy, but I don't have the education. And so when this business came around, I'm like, okay, so you start a business, and when you're doing $1,000 here and $1,000 there, it's easy to get an Excel spreadsheet, figure out profits and loss. And yeah, I bought this and I sold that. But as you grow, and I'm finding it out now, holy mackerel, it is a lot to keep up with.
Yeah, it is.
And I kind of cried on your shoulder a little bit in Orlando. I was like, Anna, what do I do? My books are a mess. It's just an absolute mess. You're like, go to my group. First thing you told me, which was great, and the first thing I did was went to your group, got on that post about knowing your inventory. Like, at least know your inventory levels, know what your cost in inventory is. You can work back, because I told you, foolishly, I did not pull the reports at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, however you want to look at it, to know my inventory levels at beginning and all that. And you said you can work back, and I did. I went all the way from I think I started in June, and suddenly I got to December, and I went, oh my God, I know what I started this year with. I know how much my cost of goods were. That's awesome.
Yay!
And I have QuickBooks, which tells me how much I spent on cost of goods. That is not the same as knowing your inventory cost. Shane asked, what's the group called? It is called Accounting We Will Go. And
yes. Thank you, Linda.
Yeah, Linda, can you actually type in a link? Because I assume it's facebook.com/groups/accounting we will go.
Yeah.
Please tell me you don't have a number at the end.
No, I don't, because I read the directions and it said, once you pick a name, change it, but then you can't ever change it again. So I had to be careful.
Yes, it's a scary moment, but
I was ready to commit.
Yeah, groups/67498.
Yeah, exactly.
So good job on that.
Oh, thank you, Georgine. Yes.
Oh, Georgine is here.
Yay.
Another CPA in the house. So
let me just say, I adore Georgine. I think she's wonderful and such an asset to the group. And, she and I I'll say, what do you think, Georgine? Or she'll have an opinion, and, we'll share. And, it's not that we disagree, but she has a different background than I do. And, I just appreciate you. So thank you, Georgine. You're definitely wonderful in the group. And she's saying, enough. A wealth of knowledge. There's so many people. And I was teasing Mindy a little bit today. We had, a certain discussion, and he's like, oh, I missed my calling. And, we were kind of debating different aspects of what the actual question even was. And, he's such a detail-oriented person. And he was explaining his, that programmable mouse thing. And he does all these Excel spreadsheets. And, kind of the point is that there's a different way to do it for everyone. And the secret is to figure out what works for you, make sure that you understand the numbers, get a good system, and then just do it. And, sometimes people may not want to do their own accounting, and that's fine too. But that means you need to outsource it or have some kind of bookkeeper, CPA who does it for you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the do-it-yourselfers, which I am still a do-it-yourselfer. At some point, I do have to hire this stuff out just because I am so bad at it. And it's just time consuming, and there's no reason for me to be doing it. But you said to start with knowing your inventory. So
yes,
if you want to explain that, and then if you could explain kind of your monthly routine of, okay, once you get the backlog done, how do you make it right going forward? What do you do? So.
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, the main thing, I always feel like I'm on my soapbox about this. It's making sure you understand how much you've spent from your pocket in unsold inventory, because that is really what's going to hang you or help you succeed. And it's interesting to me how many people don't know that number, but the reason they don't is it's hard to get. I mean, you went through so much trouble to do it, and it's a little frustrating that Amazon doesn't have a way to get that for us. But you know what? That's our responsibility. We're the business owner. We should do it.
Yep, I totally agree. And after I did that, one of the things that it did show me was I started with about $8,500 in inventory at the beginning of the year. And
Hmm.
then to wrap up July, I forget if it was 26 or 28,000. I think it was 28. But I went, oh, okay. Well, there's $20,000 straight out of the business that's sitting.
Right.
There's my cost of goods. And then I used, Chris has a little trick where you grab a couple columns out of a report, and basically you can figure out your current inventory, current inventory selling value.
Hmm.
So, and then I was able to go, okay, so my current inventory is 28,000 and projected sales would be, I think it was around 73,000 or something. And, I went, okay, that looks pretty decent. Now I'm still trying to analyze my numbers to understand whether my growth is in line with my spending. That's an area
Yeah.
I was yet. But what else should we be looking at each month to kind of know the foundation of our business and realize whether or not it's healthy?
Well, Duane, close your ears. But for those who have debt, it's really important to keep an eye on how much debt you have compared to how much inventory you have. And I can't tell you, I would say I don't know, less than 10, but enough to be sort of sad for me. The messages from people, oh my gosh, I owe more than my inventory, or their business isn't doing well and they don't know why. And, that's the first thing. Well, how much do you have in inventory at your cost, and what is your debt? So for those who have it, it's really important to keep an eye on that. And for those who do use debt and credit to build their business, you might say, wow, I feel comfortable going a little bit more. Q4 is coming up, or, I need to dial it back and sell some more inventory before I acquire more debt, and just keeping an eye on that. And even if you don't use credit, and I'm not advocating one or the other way, I'll let Duane cover
I'll
that.
forgive you. It's okay.
um, actually, I'm not a very big seller. I enjoy doing it, but it's sort of, side income to supplement, stuff for the family. So I in general, I'm kind of a chicken and pretty conservative. I don't do it, but that's my choice. It's not a judgment, but it's important to keep an eye on that because, we all make bad buys. Unfortunately, that's part of it. And you don't want those to build up over time where all of a sudden you financed a bunch of bad buys. So just keep an eye on that. It's really important. Get comfortable with the ratios and make sure you're watching that. So let's see. Oh, hi, Mindy. So it's important to keep an eye on that. And then once you understand how much unsold inventory you have, think about the big picture. Do you feel comfortable even with that number? Do you think it needs to be more to meet your sales goals? We've been talking lately about I don't know if it's like a wave of suspensions, but, really think about that. How much am I putting my family in jeopardy potentially, or exposure? Do you feel comfortable if all of a sudden this got put on hold? Are you okay with that number? And, that's an independent decision everyone has to make. But at least if you know it, you don't feel like you're so exposed. And maybe you say, gosh, that's a lot less than I thought. I really need to ratchet up because I have goals and, let's get this thing going. But you can't do that unless you know.
Yeah, it's really, I struggle with it, honestly, because I look at it in one sense and I go, man, there's $28,000 just sitting there.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're not pumping it in, then, obviously you're not going to get the sales back out. And
right.
That I did see clearly because I did a spreadsheet each month. I wish I had done Chris's little trick to get my sellable value, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
I did not do that for each month, so I only have it for July. I don't think I can go back and grab those reports. I don't think it's a custom report. I think it's just kind of you pull it because it's live data. It's that FBA inventory report.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just at that moment that you pull it is the only time you can get it. So I look, so I have the spreadsheet and it shows how much I spent on cost of goods, and then it shows my revenue. And, there's a very distinct correlation. There's a correlation between how much you spend and how much you sell.
Uh-huh.
So while part of me goes, my God, I've got $28,000 sitting there. The other part of me goes, well, fool, you've gone from, $14,000 in sales in February, and you're now hitting 30 consistently and hopefully 40 to 50 this month.
Right.
And if I pulled my numbers right now, because I dumped a ton of money in, right in the beginning of August, late July, early August. Well, that inventory wasn't actually at the warehouse. So I'm guessing there's an extra $10,000 to $12,000 at least that was really purchased already, but not there. But that's where the sale, I mean, so you got to spend it to make it. And
Yeah, that's true.
I guess, yeah, people just have to be comfortable with it. If you're in debt doing this, first of all, I mean, like true debt, not
like using credit, but actual debt,
right,
like going under.
If you have financed your business and somehow you are not selling that stuff and your payment's coming due and you have to sell inventory in order to make the payment, I mean, you are truly in debt. Get some help from somebody.
Yeah.
Because you'll get buried. You will not be able to borrow your way out of it. You will not suddenly make buys that are 3 times better than the buys you made. So it's going to cover the bad ones and the good ones. I mean, that's a vicious cycle. That scares me. People don't come to me and tell me they're deep in debt. I don't get those answers. I get people that go, no, you should be using credit cards. All these points you're giving away. And, I pay it off every 30 days. Those are the comments I get. I know the other side of the business is out there.
Yeah, it is. And, that I think what I've learned from those comments is people don't really understand what the true cost of that debt is. So, I got on my little soapbox, which is another great thing about my group. I can, have my little sermon about whatever accounting thing I want to talk about. And I had a link with a calculator that helps you understand what the cost of your debt is. And if you're thinking about doing it, I highly recommend understanding what that true cost is. And not to rag on cabbage, but, the way that things are worded can be kind of tricky. So I wanted to mention a resource if people are thinking about doing it, or if they find themselves in a situation that they didn't mean to get themselves into, because it can happen, it can happen. The SBDC, which is the Small Business Development Center, is a wonderful resource. And I don't know if you've heard about them, Duane, or not, but they're great. It's not the SBA, which is the Small Business Association.
That I've heard of, not the
it's the SBDC. And what it is a governmental office, but they're all over, and they consist of volunteers, are very low paid. People who are former executives, accountants, lawyers, and they work in the office. Maybe they'll do a shift or 2 a week, and it's really community service for them. Their pay is kind of a token payment, but they will help you understand what it is that you're doing or not doing. They'll help you get out of a jam if you're in one, or if you feel like you may be going into one. So I want to put the link, and they're in every community, and they're so wonderful. They're great. It's sbdc.org. Our taxes do pay for that. It is a governmental thing, but it's not the SBA. The SBA is real big about, one of the things they do is help small businesses get loans to grow, and that's not what this is. This is instead is the Small Business Development Center. They want to help entrepreneurs, have a business plan, help find lenders that have reasonable rates. They'll help you figure out grants and apply for those. It's a wonderful resource.
Okay, yeah, and you brought up a good point that I don't know this stuff about kind of loans. What an APR is versus what you're actually going to have to pay back, and what the annualized rate or whatever. I don't know. I used to actually study the stuff a long time ago when I was going through the get out of debt stuff and all that. Honestly, in the last few years, since we haven't been in debt, I just said, I'm not borrowing money. I don't even pay attention to any of it. I don't know what cabbage rates are, and I don't know what they look like annualized. I don't know what the true cost of those things are. And I would venture to say that if I, a math person, can't just look at that and go, oh, I get it. Most people, especially if you're not a math person, they may not have a clue what they are getting into.
Right.
I've heard cabbage is just awful. I don't know if anybody is an advocate of cabbage or anyone from cabbage is listening, but I've heard it's easy, but the rates are extremely high, and you have to pay the interest whether you pay it back early or not, which is horrible. At least my house, when I paid it off, I didn't have to pay any more interest on it. It was like, oh, your loan's paid. Cool.
Yeah, let's go to dinner.
That's the worst of both worlds. You work to pay it off early, and you get to pay interest still. Yeah, that's crazy. So
well, I know this isn't about, dissing on cabbage, but one thing, I got a message from someone who had gotten themselves into a little trouble, and they were having trouble meeting the loan payment. So they called. Well, I said, why don't you call Cabbage and see if you can work something out? And so this person messaged me back, and they said, well, I did. And what Cabbage did, it was great. They offered me more money.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're
To try to
struggling.
buy
Sure.
more inventory to pay the debt. So, just
Yeah, that sounds
and
like
that's
payday
fine.
loans.
Yeah. Yeah. Karen said it's scary. It is. And, I will also say this isn't exactly accounting related, but it sort of is. This person hadn't shared with their spouse about what was going on because they didn't really realize what they were getting into. So I suggest, it kind of goes without saying, but, have these hard discussions with your business partner, your spouse, and, set some goals that are important to whatever entity that is important to you. And, this person did discuss it with their spouse and they, weren't like, yay, that's the best thing ever. But, it wasn't a, marriage ender, but, as you find yourself getting into these situations, just be open and honest. There's no shame in any of this. We're all learning as we go. And that's why I wanted to mention the SBDC, because they're such a wonderful resource and they're free. Our tax dollars pay for it. So, definitely contact them for help. They can help you set business goals to grow and all kinds of stuff. So.
See, I probably need to contact him. I am just so non-business savvy. That is something I've truly come to understand as I go through this. And it's hard for me to admit because I'm telling you, I consider myself a smart guy. I understand numbers and I understand how all this works, but at the same time, I've never run a business.
Yeah.
I've never just had to deal with so many moving parts. And the bigger we get in add in this service and hire on that team member and, you just start having all this stuff. And in the meantime, you're trying to actually do what you are used to doing. And in my case, it's shopping.
Yeah.
RA. And man, when you turn around, it's like my business is just doing all this crazy stuff by itself. And you gotta rein it all in. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what I did last week when I finally got my year-to-date stuff set up. And there were some eye-opening statistics that
Really
became apparent. And I went, holy crap, I had no idea. And that gets a little further into what I'm comfortable sharing on here, but just it was just another reminder that I'm not a business person by nature, and I'm still learning. And yes, I make mistakes. So it's good to have you and your group and people like you around, and Jeff and Georgine to be able to lean on and ask those questions too. Because man, most of us just don't know what the heck we're doing. It's just that simple. We buy stuff, we sell stuff, and that's it. So what is our monthly routine? What reports, anything should we pull, and what can you give us just kind of your synopsis?
Yeah, I'll give kind of a quickie high level thing. First, I recommend for people who want to, tame the tiger by the tail, just start where you are. Don't worry about being behind. Don't worry about not having done whatever should have been done. I'm all about no shame. Let's just figure out what's going on and make it more efficient and work better for you. So a lot of people say, oh my gosh, I have this pile of receipts. What do? And what do I do? What I recommend is people just take the receipts and put them aside for now. Take the bank statement and look at the bank statement. Make sure, first of all, that you have a separate business and checking account and a personal checking account. A lot of people don't. They should. But, that's an easy fix. Don't feel guilty about it. Just go tomorrow and get a whole separate account. It's not a big deal. So once they're separated, put all of your receipts aside and look at that bank statement and say, all right, what are my inflows and outflows? If you decide to use something like QuickBooks, then you enter all of your purchases in, you associate each purchase with a vendor, and all of a sudden, look, you've got everything into QuickBooks or whatever accounting system you're using. And it's nice because you can import things automatically. So once you do that headache one time, you don't ever have to do it again. Then getting back to the receipts, at some point you probably need to go and take that bank statement and match it up to the receipt. So if you have 40 transactions in a month, first count, do I have 40 receipts? Probably not. We all lose a receipt or two. Then just go through when you're watching, a movie on a Saturday or something and just, kind of match them up and do the best you can. Some people like to scan them and save them to Evernote. Some people have these files. It doesn't have to be complicated. The whole point is to find a system that works for you. So once you've gone through that, you can even stick those receipts. What I do is I do put mine in Evernote. I have this little cute scanner on my desk, and my son actually is an excellent scanner. That's part of his chores. I make him scan the receipts as part of the chore because I want him to know, I'm working and this is a lot of tedious detail. So he does that and he's very good. Anyway, moving forward, what you want to do then is you want to take, if you have credit cards in your bank statements, reconcile everything, just like you learn how to do bank reconciliation, in your first checking account. Pretty simple exercise, and that'll help you pick up stuff you missed. Maybe you stopped and got a Coke at Quick Trip because you're running around and it's hot. You'll find those little things. And then the tricky part is what everyone gets frustrated with is the cost of goods sold issue. And I saw someone ask about Inventory Lab, and I don't want to say that one platform is better than the other. Scam Power Reports is great. Chris's product Inventory Lab is another great alternative. Some people do it the old, Excel spreadsheet method. Whatever works for you is the best thing. Other people actually go to Seller Central and download the report that we were talking about earlier and make sure they know how many items have sold for the month. And you can do a little calculation and that'll tell you your cost of goods sold. So, doing it one way or the other isn't really what this is about. It's about making sure that you are doing something.
Now, which reports are you talking about, just for people listening?
I would have to look. I think you go to FBA reports. It's an inventory report. And then what you do is you choose month end. And as you know, Duane, you and I were talking, they've changed the report. You used to be able to do it the day after month end, but now you have to wait till after the 5th. So
yeah, that's the monthly inventory report.
Yes.
Yeah. It's under FBA. Yeah, it's reports. Is it business reports? No, it's fulfillment, right?
It's fulfillment. Yeah. And then I think it's inventory. Is this a pop quiz?
No, it's me. It's me trying to make sure I'm doing this stuff right. Since I've got you on here, I'm going to make the most of it. Nobody else is asking questions, so I'm just going to keep you to myself for 20 minutes.
Karen asked a question.
Oh, okay.
I advertise for VA and one is familiar with QuickBooks. What info would I have to give them if I use that and they keep it up to date? That's a great question. You would need to make sure that your bank. Well, Karen, are you using the online QuickBooks or the desktop version, or is that to be decided? Well, let's just say that's to be decided. Either way, you need to have your banking activity imported into the software, and then your VA can go in and match each transaction with what it probably is. So if you've spent $800 at Target, that's probably sourcing for inventory. She's using an Excel spreadsheet you've created yourself. Okay. So you would need to make sure this person could check and at least get stuff in general where it needs to go. And then you would check behind them and make sure they've done it correctly. Because if you did go to Target and spent $800, only you are going to know if, $30 of that was shipping supplies and the rest was for inventory.
Let me ask you, this is not an official answer, of course, but my question that goes through my mind, if you are cash accounting, okay, so I spend $800 cost of goods, and that's probably a bad example. My point is, all right, $30 shipping supplies. So I buy boxes and I bought $770 worth of actual inventory. Aren't those both going to be expensed? So
they will be expensed, but the shipping supplies will be expensed upon purchase, and the inventory will be expensed when they sell.
Okay, and since we carry inventory, does that have to be the case with us? Can you be cash based with inventory?
Well, that's up for debate. There are certain rules that do exempt people that they can decide to follow, and I'm kind of darting around there's an IRS regulation, and I think they call it non-supply inventory, and there's $1 million threshold. But I really think, for me personally, and I will actually go out on a limb and say, maybe Georgine, if you're there, you can chime in here, but I really think it's worth it. Find out your cost of goods sold, only expense what sells. Georgine doesn't recommend it either. Okay. Yeah, I just, but obviously talk to your own CPA and see what they say. And
absolutely. See, and that's the answer I get about 99% of the time. And I just started the other way, and I've just never gone to that. And I'm starting to realize, one, I'm growing pretty quickly where it matters. And two, it's probably the right way to do it. I'm like, crap, I'm going to have to make that adjustment. Apparently I need to match up my receipts better too. You guys are going to find out just how bad I am at this stuff.
Remember we said no shame,
yeah,
no shame, no
when I tell
judgment.
you, don't ask me about bookkeeping, there is a, you want to know how to sell stuff and fast earn stuff? Yeah, let's talk.
Yeah.
See, I don't compare my receipts. I just go, man, my bank statement said I bought this. I'm sure I did. I guess I need to.
Well, a lot of people do that, and really the only problem with not matching it is if something happened.
Right.
Yeah. And you have to calculate if it's worth it to you to take the risk or not. So.
Yeah, and I got a 1 cent international deduction the other day, like a debit for 1 penny. I was like, crap, is someone about to steal my card again? Which I've had happen, I don't know, at least a couple of times.
Yeah.
So, there's no way I have a 1 cent transaction just hanging out there. So yeah, it is one little oddball thing. And I'm like, so if, for instance, if somebody stole my card and then they went and bought something on Amazon, the way I'm doing it, I would honestly just go, oh, I bought inventory on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It would not occur to me that I didn't buy it. And that's that really set off an alarm in my head. And then as you're talking about matching up the receipts, again, that's my fault. That's bad business practice. Don't do what I'm doing. Do what Anna's doing.
Well, I'm not. Well, actually, my son does it for me.
That's fine. Even
kids
better,
should work.
Have someone else do it.
Exactly. Yes.
So yeah, that was kind of an eye opener to me, and I am guilty again of not.
Well, we all are. I mean, I'm not great about doing everything perfectly all the time, but Karen says she's been through an audit. Oh, they're a total nightmare. I could tell you guys stories about it from my CPA firm days. But the good thing is if you are organized and prepared, you can get through it and it's not the end of the world. It's, like the dentist, it's not that fun, but it's something that can be survived. And I know I have peace of mind taking a little bit of time in the moment, getting stuff organized and moving on. And then I never have to worry about it because I don't like worrying about things.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Karen said it was 2 days, ended up fine, didn't owe a cent.
Good job.
Yay.
Way to go. All right. So there is another thing in your group. I don't even know what you refer to it as, and I have not done this one yet, but it's reconciling your payouts.
Oh, okay.
Is that the right term? So
do you mean recording the payouts where you have, I think maybe what you're talking about is where we're looking at gross sales minus Amazon fees equals cash into the bank. Right. Is that what you're talking about? Yes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Can you walk me through exactly, or not exactly, but roughly what I'm trying to accomplish with that and why that's important?
Sure. Yeah. This is really important because if you think about it, what matters in the end is what we're paying taxes on. And our taxes are based on our sales minus expenses. So what some people do is they say, wow, I got, let's say, a payout of, your $12,000. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not your sales. Your sales are higher than that. So if you're recording all of your purchases, you want to record your sales as well. And your sales are the gross number before you take out the expenses. So let's say this is a bad example, but let's say it was $20,000 in sales, minus $8,000 in Amazon fees equals the $12,000 that went into your account. And it's really important to record that all, the sales minus expenses to get at your cash in bank.
Okay. And how often do you find Amazon is wrong on that? Or is it all right, but you're just recording different areas of where that money went?
Yeah, it's all right. And what ends up happening at the end of the year, we get a 1099 and there's a post that was written about how to reconcile your payment statements to your actual 1099 just to make sure that everything aligns. And, I think it's really important for us to keep in mind how much it does cost us to do business with Amazon. Some people say, oh, it's so expensive. I personally feel it's reasonable because I don't have a store. I don't have insurance. I'm not sitting there hiring employees to, wait to see if someone shows up to buy my stuff. But it is a material amount. So just kind of being aware of it, that's one of the biggest costs of our business. So I think it's important to just kind of have some knowledge of that.
Yeah. Anyone that says it's expensive to sell on Amazon, never tried to run their own website, drive traffic, pay Google AdWords. You want expensive. Go pay someone every time they click on your store and then don't buy anything. And, at least Amazon only takes money when you actually sell something. Or
that's true.
For the most part. I mean, they have some storage fees, but they're holding your crap. You owe money for that. But yeah, they only take money when you make money. Mm-hmm. So,
Oh, I'm all for that. Think about what they do. I mean, they're fulfilling my stuff and shuffling it all over the country, and
dealing with customers and all that good stuff. So
I get to use their shipping rates. I mean,
yeah.
I'm all for it.
Oh yeah. When I hear someone say how expensive it is, I'm like, go ship through UPS yourself.
Yeah.
Then come back and tell me how expensive it was to ship to Washington. Yeah, it's no fun, but it was $15. I can't ship to you for $15.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to happen. All right. Jonathan asks, as far as paying yourself, is it better to pay yourself over time or lump sum at the end of the year? I was looking and seemed lump sums are taxed higher, like a commission. So,
well, I want to be careful and not give tax advice here, but here's what I do want to say. It's really important to have a good tax consultant who can talk to you about entity structure. So I will tell you that if you have a sole proprietorship, everything you distribute to yourself is taxable. There are other forms that you can have an entity where part of what you distribute to yourself as a salary is taxable at one rate, and then you can do an owner's distribution that is taxable at a different rate. So I highly recommend talking to someone about that, because that can save you a lot of money by having the right entity structure established.
Okay, so let me follow up with that. God, I love having you here. I can't believe people ask more. All right, so I'm a sole proprietor, or I'm sorry, I am an LLC with an S Corp designation.
Right.
I do not pay myself consistently.
Okay.
I don't know if I should or not. I just take money when I need it. I'm like, there's money in the business account. There's not quite enough in our personal account.
Right.
We take some money out of here and put it over there and put a little aside for taxes. And that's how I pay myself. Is there a proper way to pay yourself to make sure you're maximizing the S Corp side of that for the lower tax distributions through the business?
I would definitely have a consistent something, even if it's, a minimal amount, so that you're showing a thought out pattern, because what they don't want you to do, they don't want one to do, is wait till the end of the year and say, oh my gosh, I'm going to have this huge tax exposure. I better give myself a giant salary distribution and a giant, owner's salary also. So if you're doing something consistently, I know that, we want to keep money so that we can reinvest, but part of following the rules for, like you said, the LLC with the S Corp is making sure that you are showing that you're following the purpose of it, not just trying to get around taxes. And I know that's not what you were saying, but, I recommend getting some consulting on making sure that you're doing it properly so nothing comes into question.
All right. I will get that set up.
And what the SBDC will help you with that too, free. And that's my favorite thing. See, my CPA says I have to pay myself at least 50% of my profits to comply with the IRS. I would listen to what your CPA says if that's what they told you.
Well, there's a non-answer for you.
Yeah. And I missed Barry's question. If you aren't doing it as payroll, you might have to consider estimated taxes. Now, I agree with Barry also. There's one seller I know in Florida, and she's awesome. I don't want to name her and put her on the spot, but she uses Zen Payroll, I believe, and she really likes it. And everything's automated, and they integrate with QuickBooks, and it's just her that she's paying. So I'm not affiliated with them, but that's one I know that she's been real happy with.
All right. Now, Cindy, this is a little further back, said, I've been selling less than a year. I don't have a lot of inventory yet. I'm doing my accounting just on basic Excel spreadsheets. As I grow this business, what do you recommend the next setup for a more automated accounting system? I don't use QuickBooks or Inventory Lab. So if you're doing spreadsheets right now, where do you go? And feel free to recommend whatever you.
Well, I think really the question becomes, how much time do you want to spend doing accounting? I think we all know Husha. She's a great bookseller in Houston, and we love her. And she says she's not a numbers person, so she has a bookkeeper now. And Husha enters everything into mint.com. And when I say enters, she imports her bank accounts. She codes things as far as, is this inventory or supplies or a little bit of both? And then her bookkeeper extracts the information and does it for her. So maybe if you're that kind of person, that's the route to go. Or maybe you say, I really want to learn this myself. Well, then it's time to maybe do QuickBooks, or Sage Peachtree is another product that's kind of comparable. But I think it's important to decide how much time you want to spend doing it. A lot of CPAs will offer back office help where they will do it for you and maybe, charge you a monthly fee or charge you more for your taxes to do it for you. So it's not really what platform you use, but more of how much you want to spend of your own time doing it. And I will tell you, if I didn't know how to do it myself, I wouldn't. It's just, it's really a lot of responsibility and a headache, but some people really enjoy it and would prefer to do it themselves.
Yeah, I think it's time for me to, Alan said I need to get a CPA. I actually have a CPA. I just don't use him like I should. But yeah, it's time for me to unload this stuff, because I've just sat here and told you for the last hour how bad I am at it.
And if it's not your thing, it's not your thing. Your time might be better off spent doing something else.
Yeah, I enjoyed it when seriously we were selling like $2,000 and $3,000 a month, and I could spend like half an hour and go, oh man, look, we sold these 8 things and made this much money. Great. Mm-hmm. That was awesome.
Right.
Now, we're selling a couple thousand things a month. I don't want to, and I don't have the time to break all that down. And and honestly, I don't trust the automated systems. I don't trust Inventory Lab or Scan Power reports to give me accurate data. Now, it may put me in the ballpark, but I don't know. To me, that's all it's good for, is in the ballpark. But that's just
well, what ends up happening is, what I've done, because I'm a nerd, is I do use one of those products and I compare what they say my cost of goods sold is with what Amazon has as far as, my unsold inventory at month end, and I multiply it by the number of items times my cost. But, that just takes time, and I'm pretty quick at doing it. But really, that's probably not the best use of my time either. Comparing that, I shouldn't be having to reconcile Amazon to what this, cost of goods sold program tells me. So, it's important to figure out what to outsource and what not to.
Yeah, it sounds like you're doing double work. I mean, if you're verifying the system, even if
it's called OCD. But you're kind to call it double work.
I don't suffer from OCD in that respect. Unless it's a shopping cart out of place, I'm pretty OCD free. You park a shopping cart the wrong way, and we're going to talk. All right, a couple questions. See, that's always happens. People are quiet for the first 40 minutes. We start asking some questions. Suddenly, it's like bing, bing, bing. Got questions. We're going to have to wrap it up. I am not going to take up your night. But Alan said it's time for Anna to do her advice disclaimer. This is, but you can't say I'm not a professional, so I don't know what you say. But no, this is all opinion. There's no tax advice being given here.
Yeah.
Okay, Daniel, when trying to determine what my quarterly profit is for payroll, does it matter how much money I reinvest into my inventory, or is it strictly about how much profit I made in the last quarter sales?
Choice B.
Okay, I kind of thought you'd say that.
What happens after you make the profit? I mean, you can go, blow it on whatever, reinvest in inventory. They're unfortunately not correlated. Wouldn't it be nice if they were? Oh, and I wanted to answer Mindy's question, which I think might have been Sarah, since I believe Mindy's driving. But there's a post in my group, and there's a whole bunch of questions, suggested questions to ask a CPA as you're interviewing them. So I'll tag you guys in that, and you can look at it, because it's important to kind of have your questions in mind before you go talk to someone.
Awesome. Yeah, your group is fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, so Julie, last question says, and that is Sarah, by the way. But yeah, Julie says, this might be a tax question. Can my business purchase stuff for me personally and legitimately, or is it all in the same? So LLC as an S Corp. So she's an LLC. Take my trailer. Let's use my trailer as an example. That is something I am going to use probably 99.9% of the time for business. But is it legitimate for me to buy that through the business, or should I transfer that money? Or I don't know how to phrase it, but is that a personal purchase that I use for business, or is it a business purchase?
I personally would just run it through the business. It's a business purpose. It's for a business purpose. The business can buy it. The business can take the depreciation. It's a long-lived asset, which means it has a longer life than 1 year, or one accounting cycle, which is usually 1 year. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't, it just makes sense to have everything running through the business.
Okay. So
And I think Julie said purchase stuff from me personally, legitimately, or is it
okay,
all
yeah,
one and the
I
same?
misread that. I'm sorry. Yep. So yeah, saying so the business can buy the purchase, or so the business can buy the trailer for him.
Yeah, I would just be careful and make sure that it's an arm's length transaction, because the last thing you want to do is make it look like, let's say you're, I don't know, making crocheted blankets that cost you $4 and, 50 hours, and you sell them to the business for, $2,000. Just be real careful that it is a legitimate arm's length transaction.
Yeah, that
at true market prices.
See, that's a crap goes right over my head. I know what you're saying. It just, yeah. I start hearing that, it's like eyes glaze over.
It's like the Charlie Brown teacher.
Yeah, yeah, arm's length transaction.
Yeah, pierce the corporate veil. That's another one. Yeah.
Someone did ask that. Actually, I want to address that real quick, because somebody said, is there any advantage to being an LLC without the S corp? And one of the answers was, for tax reasons, you're taxed as a sole proprietor. But that is, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not the only reason to have an LLC. It's actually for protection, to insulate you from litigation if something in your business causes harm to somebody else and they try to sue you. Isn't that really the purpose of an LLC? It's not a tax issue?
Well, that's definitely one of them. And I think the word insulate versus guarantee is an important difference. And that's why it's so important to have separate bank accounts. Don't, have personal and business together. If you've gone to all the trouble to do it, make sure that everything is done properly and that you have all of your T's crossed and I's dotted. All
right. There you go. And Georgine said, and if you sell something to your business, you have to pay tax on the profit you made. Right. Back to the $2,000 crocheted blanket example. All right. So yeah, it's kinds of tax stuff. Well, it's a lot to cover, but I encourage people, please join the group. It's free. It's always going to be free. It's not a trick, but really I created that as a repository of knowledge that everyone's contributed to. It's not my group, it's our group. And I know that sounds kind of, kumbaya-ish, but I really do mean that. Right. It's so full of information. And I like the fact that it's information, not just questions. There are groups where general questions are a good thing, and new seller questions that want to know about supplies or, shipping and how to do an MF transaction or whatever. Your group doesn't have that, from what I've seen, though. There are poignant questions about tax issues, about accounting, about bookkeeping. So, it's not like your feed is going to get filled up by joining your group with a bunch of questions that maybe don't really pertain to accounting. It is very on point, and I appreciate that as thank you, a member of the group. So thank you. Well, and always, everyone, feel free to PM me anytime. I might be busy at the moment, but I always try to PM people back. So, reach out anytime. I don't judge. Whatever you share is safe with me. Trust me, I've heard it all at this point. Yeah. If me throwing it all out there, telling you how badly I've done things does not kind of give you a little bit of mind that she's not going to judge you, and it's okay to admit that you kind of suck at some stuff. But yeah, get those questions answered. We had an hour tonight, but you're there all the time. So yes, take advantage. Anytime. So again, it is facebook.com/groups/accounting we will go, which is a really cute name. Good job. Thank you. It almost makes accounting fun, but not quite. Almost. I thought sitting down here would make it more fun too. That does. I actually wasn't looking at you most of the time. I was just kind of trying to figure out. No, good stuff. Thank you so much, Anna. Thank you, Duane. Anytime. Let's do it again soon. Sure will. And thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. We will. Thanks, Georgine. Bye, guys. Yeah, Georgine, thank you so much. Appreciate your input as well. It's nice to be surrounded by smart people, smart ladies. You guys are awesome. So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for being here, and we will see you next week. Anna, thank you so much. We'll see you later. Thanks, Duane. Bye.